Dr. Zara Chun's headlamp cut through the Martian dust as she descended into the newly excavated chamber beneath Olympus Mons. The archaeological site had yielded fragments of technology that predated human civilization by millennia, but nothing had prepared her for what lay in the deepest level of the dig. The chamber walls were covered in symbols that seemed to shift and writhe in her peripheral vision, much like the optical illusions created by certain neural interfaces. Where the brain struggled to process information it wasn't designed to understand. Her colleague, Dr. Marcus Webb, knelt beside a crystalline structure that pulsed with faint bioluminescence, similar to the deep-sea creatures found in Earth's oceanic trenches. "Zara, you need to see this," Marcus whispered, his voice tight with excitement and fear. "The dating puts this structure at over 2 million years old, but the quantum signatures suggest it's still active." She approached the artifact, a translucent pillar that reminded her of the fiber optic cables used in Earth's earliest quantum computing networks, but infinitely more sophisticated. As her gloved hand neared its surface, the structure responded with a cascade of light that painted the chamber walls in shifting patterns. "It's some kind of beacon," she breathed, pulling out her scanner. The readings were unlike anything in the xenoarchaeological database. But why would an ancient civilization place a quantum transmitter on Mars? The answer came when her scanner interfaced with the artifact's quantum field. Data flooded her neural implant, not words, but pure information that translated directly into understanding. She saw star maps spanning the galaxy, trade routes that formed a vast web of commerce and communication, and at the center of it all, a glaring absence where Earth's solar system should be. "Marcus, look at this," she said, projecting the holographic display from her implant. The three-dimensional map showed thousands of inhabited worlds, their connections forming a complex network that resembled the neural pathways of a vast brain. Every single trade route, every communication relay, every outpost, they all avoid our solar system like it's surrounded by an event horizon. Marcus studied the projection, his face pale in the artifact's glow. "That's impossible. We've been searching for signs of alien life for centuries. If there's a galactic civilization this advanced, why haven't they contacted us?" The beacon pulsed, brighter, and suddenly Zara understood. The avoidance wasn't random. It was deliberate, systematic. The entire galaxy had been structured to isolate Earth, to keep humanity contained within a bubble of ignorance. The revelation hit her like a physical blow. They weren't alone in the universe, but they were quarantined from it. "Because they're afraid of us," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the humming of the ancient technology. "They know something about humanity that we don't." As if responding to her words, the beacon's pulse intensified, and a new wave of information crashed over her consciousness. She saw glimpses of the civilization that had built this network, the architects, beings so old they had witnessed the birth of stars. Their warning echoed in her mind like a death knell. The sleeper stirs. The quarantine must hold. The chamber shuddered as something deep within Mars responded to the beacon's activation. In the distance, alarms began to sound from the surface. Installations. And Zara realized with growing horror that her discovery had just shattered humanity's cosmic isolation. Asterisk. The evacuation of the Mars dig site began within hours of Zara's discovery, but not for the reasons she expected. As emergency shuttles ferried researchers to the orbital station, she noticed the corporate security teams moving with military precision. This wasn't a standard archaeological evacuation. Commander Sarah Knox, head of the Titan Mining Consortium's Security Division, cornered Zara in the shuttle bay. Knox's cybernetic eye whirred as it focused on her, like the targeting systems used by police drones in Earth's major cities. "Dr. Chun, we need to discuss your findings before you submit any reports." "The data belongs to the Mars Archaeological Authority," Zara replied, clutching her encrypted storage device. This discovery changes everything we know about our place in the galaxy. Knox's smile was as cold as the Martian surface. That's exactly why it needs to be handled carefully. Imagine the panic if people learned we've been deliberately isolated by alien civilizations. The economic implications alone, a proximity alarm cut through their conversation. The shuttle's pilot, a grizzled veteran named Jack Morrison, who reminded Zara of the old asteroid miners from the belt, shouted over the intercom, "Unknown vessels approaching fast." They're not broadcasting any identification codes. Through the viewport, Zara watched as sleek, biomechanical ships materialized from what looked like empty space cloaking technology that made Earth's stealth fighters look like children's toys. The vessels moved with an organic fluidity that suggested they were grown rather than built, their surfaces rippling like living tissue. "Enforcer fleet," Knox breathed, her face draining of color. "How did they find us so quickly?" The lead ship fired a beam of coherent energy that passed through the shuttle's hull without damaging it, but Zara felt something fundamental change in her neural implant. The alien data was gone, not deleted, but sealed behind barriers her mind couldn't reach. They're quarantining the information, she realized, just like they quarantined Earth. A new voice filled the shuttle's communication system, speaking in harmonics that no human throat could produce, but which her implant translated into meaning. "The beacon activation has been detected. The contaminated vessel will be escorted to neutral space for decontamination." Knox drew her plasma sidearm, but before she could fire, the shuttle lurched as a tractor beam locked onto their hull. Outside, the enforcer ships arranged themselves in a formation that reminded Zara of antibodies surrounding a virus, precise, implacable, and utterly alien in their coordination. "Dr. Chun," the alien voice continued, "you have access restricted. Historical data. The architect's warning protocols are now active. You will be processed according to Galactic Quarantine Directive 7841. Jack Morrison's hands flew over his controls, but the shuttle's systems had been completely overridden. "I've seen military-grade electronic warfare, but this is something else entirely. It's like they're speaking directly to our computers in their native language." As they were pulled toward the largest enforcer ship, Zara caught a glimpse of its interior through translucent sections of the hull. The ship seemed to be alive, its corridors pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that resembled the neural networks of a massive brain. Figures moved within those passages, beings that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, their forms shifting between states of matter. "This is why they avoid Earth," Zara whispered, understanding flooding through her despite the blocks in her implant. "We're not just quarantined, we're specimens. And something about us terrifies them so much, they've restructured galactic civilization to keep us contained." The enforcer ship's docking bay opened like a flower, revealing an environment that defied human understanding of physics. As their shuttle was drawn inside, Zara realized that her discovery on Mars was just the beginning. The real question wasn't why the galaxy's oldest civilization avoided Earth. It was what they knew about humanity's future that made them willing to reshape the cosmos to prevent it. Asterisk, asterisk. The processing chamber aboard the enforcer ship challenged every assumption Zara had about physics and biology. The walls seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, their surfaces flowing like liquid mercury while maintaining perfect structural integrity, similar to the theoretical metamaterials that Earth scientists had only begun to understand. Her captor materialized from what appeared to be solid wall, stepping through matter as easily as walking through air. The being stood roughly human height, but moved with the fluid grace of a dancer, its form shifting between states like a living hologram. When it spoke, the words seemed to form directly in her mind. "I am Kethvora, third arbiter of the Galactic Enforcement Division," it said, its voice carrying harmonics that resonated in frequencies beyond human hearing. Your species designation is ... problematic. Problematic how? Zara asked, fighting to keep her voice steady. The chamber's environment felt alive, responding to her emotional state with subtle changes in temperature and lighting. Kethvora's form solidified slightly, revealing features that were almost human, but wrong in ways that made her brain ache. To process. Your people call yourselves human, but our records use a different term. You are the catalyst species, the one the architects warned us about before they transcended physical existence. A holographic display materialized between them, showing the galaxy as it had been millions of years ago. Trade routes connected, thousands of worlds in a web of commerce and culture. But even then, Earth's solar system remained isolated. The architects discovered something in your genetic code, Kethvora continued, a dormant potential that terrified them. They restructured galactic civilization to ensure your species would never reach sufficient technological development to activate it. What kind of potential? Zara demanded, but the Arbiter's form flickered with what might have been anxiety. Asterisk. The kind that could unmake reality itself, came a new voice from the shadows. A figure stepped forward, humanoid, but clearly not human, with elongated limbs and eyes that held the depth of ancient wisdom. My name is Thane Corvanis, and I've been studying your species for longer than your civilization has existed. Kethvora's form pulsed with what Zara recognized as alarm. Corvanis, you are in violation of observation protocols. Your presence here is unauthorized. The protocols are about to become irrelevant, Thane replied, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. The beacon activation has accelerated the timeline. The sleeper isn't just stirring, it's beginning to wake. Zara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's atmosphere. What sleeper? What are you talking about? Thane approached her, his movements careful and deliberate. Beneath Earth's surface, the architects buried something, not a weapon, but a key. Your species was engineered to be that key's guardians, but also its potential activators. The dormant genetic sequences in human DNA are more than evolutionary traits, they're activation codes. Activation codes for what? Zara asked, though part of her already dreaded the answer. For the universe's reset protocol, Thane said simply. The architects built a failsafe into the fabric of reality itself. If the cosmos ever became too damaged, too corrupted, or too dangerous, it could be returned to its original state, wiped clean and started over. The implications hit Zara like a physical blow. You're saying humanity has the power to destroy the universe? Not destroy, Kethvora corrected, its form now radiating barely contained fear. Rewrite. Every civilization that has ever existed, every thought that has ever been thought, every star that has ever burned, all of it would be erased and replaced with the architect's vision of perfection. Thane nodded grimly, and the process has already begun. Your activation of the Martian beacon was the first step. The quantum resonance is spreading through Earth's core, awakening systems that have slept for millions of years. How long do we have? Zara whispered. According to our calculations, Kethvora replied, approximately 72 hours before the cascade becomes irreversible. Unless we can find a way to stop it, or ... It paused, its form flickering with uncertainty. Or what? Zara demanded. Or, we determined that the reset should be allowed to proceed, Thane said quietly. Perhaps the architects were right. Perhaps the universe has become too corrupt, too broken to save. As if to emphasize his point, alarms began sounding throughout. The enforcer ship. Through the chamber's transparent walls, Zara could see other vessels approaching human ships, their hulls bristling with weapons that seemed primitive compared to the alien technology around her. The Titan Mining Consortium, she realized. They're coming for me. No, Thane said, his ancient eyes reflecting a sadness that spanned millennia. They're coming for the power to remake reality in their image, and they have no idea what they're about to unleash. Asterisk. The Enforcer ship shuddered as Titan Mining Consortium dreadnoughts opened fire with weapons that crackled with stolen alien technology. Zara watched in horror as the corporate fleet's lead vessel, a massive warship that dwarfed even the largest Earth, battlecruisers began charging what appeared to be a planet-killer cannon. They're not trying to capture us, she realized. They're going to destroy this ship and everything on it. Kefvora's form blazed with energy as it interfaced with the ship's systems. The humans have modified their weapons with architect technology. Impossible. The quantum lock should have prevented. The locks are failing, Thane interrupted, his voice grim. The beacon activation isn't just waking the sleeper. It's disrupting the barriers the architects placed on dangerous knowledge. Humanity is about to have access to technologies that could reshape matter at the subatomic level. The Enforcer ship's hull began to ripple and flow, transforming from its rigid docking configuration into something resembling a living organism. Zara felt her stomach lurch as the vessel accelerated beyond anything human engineering could achieve, reality blurring around them as they entered a form of hyperspace that made Earth's jump drives look like Stone Age tools. "Where are we going?" she asked, gripping the chamber's biometallic walls as the ship twisted through dimensions that her mind couldn't properly process. "To the source," Thane replied, his form now translucent with strain. "The architect's primary facility, where the universe's reset protocol was first designed. If there's a way to stop the cascade, we'll find it there." Through the ship's organic viewports, Zara watched as space itself seemed to fold and reshape around them. Stars stretched into lines of light, then compressed into points of impossible brilliance. A journey that would have taken human ships decades was accomplished in minutes, but the cost was becoming apparent. Both alien beings were flickering in and out of existence, their forms destabilizing under the dimensional stress. The human vessels are following, Kefvora reported, its voice now distorted by harmonics that made Zara's teeth ache. "They have somehow replicated our quantum drive technology. This should not be possible." "It's not replication," Thane said weakly. "It's evolution. The genetic activation has begun, and it's not just affecting humans, it's affecting their technology. Their machines are learning to think like living beings." The Enforcer ship dropped out of hyperspace near a structure that defied description. The architect facility existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, its surfaces flowing between states of matter while maintaining perfect geometric precision. It reminded Zara of the theoretical models of 11-dimensional space she'd studied in graduate school, but seeing it in reality was like staring into the face of infinity itself. "The source," Thane whispered, his form now barely visible. "The birthplace of universal constants. From here, the architects designed the laws of physics themselves." As they approached the facility, Zara became aware of other presences ancient, minds that had transcended physical existence, but still maintained awareness of the material universe. Their thoughts brushed against her consciousness like whispers from eternity. "The catalyst awakens," the voices murmured. "The final equation approaches completion. Choice must be made: preservation or transformation." "What are they asking?" Zara said, though part of her already understood. "They're asking whether humanity should be stopped," Thane replied, his voice fading as his form destabilized further. "Or whether the universe truly needs to be reborn." The Titan Mining Consortium fleet burst out of hyperspace behind them, their ships now visibly transforming as they adapted to the dimensional stresses. Zara watched in fascination and horror as the corporate dreadnoughts began to merge with their own technology, becoming something that was neither fully human nor fully machine. "They're evolving," she breathed. "The activation isn't just affecting genetics, It's affecting everything humanity has touched. Yes, Kethvora agreed. It's formed now a barely coherent energy pattern. Your species is becoming what the architects always feared, a force of pure transformation. You don't just adapt to your environment, you reshape it to match your desires. The source facility responded to their approach by opening massive bay doors that revealed an interior filled with impossible geometries. Inside, Zara could see. The heart of the architect's great work chamber, where the fundamental forces of reality were stored like tools in a cosmic workshop. The reset controls are in there, Thane said, his voice now barely a whisper. But so is the final test. The architects didn't just build a fail-safe, they built a trial. Humanity must prove it deserves to exist, or the universe will be wiped clean and started over. As their ship was drawn into the source's embrace, Zara realized that everything the quarantine, the avoidance, the ancient warnings had been, leading to this moment. The galaxy's oldest civilization hadn't avoided Earth out of fear alone. They had been waiting for humanity to grow strong enough to face the ultimate question. Was existence worth preserving, or was it time for reality itself to begin again? The chamber at the heart of the source existed in a state that challenged every law of physics Zara had ever learned. Walls flowed like liquid while maintaining perfect structural integrity, and the air itself seemed to pulse with the rhythm of cosmic forces. At the center of the space stood a construct that was simultaneously a machine, a living being, and a mathematical equation made manifest. The reset engine, Thane whispered, his form now nothing more than a shimmer of fading consciousness. The architect's greatest creation and their greatest fear. The Titan Mining Consortium forces had followed them into the facility, but their ships were no longer recognizable as human technology. They had become something organic, their hulls breathing like living creatures, their weapon systems pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that reminded Zara of neural networks. Commander. Nox emerged from the lead vessel, but she too had changed. Her cybernetic implants had merged with her organic tissue, creating patterns of circuitry that flowed beneath her skin like living tattoos. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that resonated with the facility's dimensional frequencies. Dr. Chun, she said, her eyes now glowing with an inner light that suggested she could see far beyond the visible spectrum. You have no idea what you've unleashed. The power to reshape reality itself. Imagine what humanity could accomplish with that kind of control. Is that what you think this is about? Zara asked, approaching the reset engine. As she drew closer, she could feel its immense power pressing against her consciousness like a tide of pure possibility. Control? The engine responded to her presence by projecting a holographic display that showed the universe in all its complexity, every star, every planet, every living being represented as interconnected nodes in a vast web of existence. But the web was damaged, Zara realized. Dark spots spread through the network like cancer, areas where civilizations had fallen to war, greed, and the entropy that seemed to infect all conscious life. The architects saw this, she breathed, understanding, flooding through her. They saw that consciousness itself might be a flaw in the universe's design. Intelligence leads to ambition, ambition leads to conflict, and conflict leads to destruction. Kethvora's fading form pulsed with agreement. They created the reset engine as a safeguard. If intelligence ever became too dangerous, too destructive, the universe could be returned to its original state, pure energy, pure potential, unmarked by the damage that thinking beings inevitably cause. But they made one mistake, Thane added, his voice now barely audible. They assumed that the decision to activate the engine would be made by beings like themselves ancient, wise, removed from the passions that drive younger species. Instead, they created humanity, Zara said, the truth crystallizing in her mind, a species that feels as much as it thinks. That creates as much as it destroys. The reset engine pulsed brighter, and suddenly Zara could see the choice before her with perfect clarity. She could activate the engine, wiping away billions of years of evolutionary history to create a universe free from the flaws that plagued conscious existence. Or she could refuse, allowing the universe to continue its messy, imperfect, beautiful journey toward an uncertain future. Choose quickly, Nox said, her transformed voice carrying undertones of desperate hunger. The cascade has reached the point of no return. In minutes, the decision will be made automatically, and the universe will be reset whether we want it or not. But Zara wasn't listening to Nox anymore. She was listening to the engine itself, and to the fading whispers of the architects who had built it. They had left one final message, encoded in the quantum structure of the device itself, a confession of their greatest fear. "You were afraid of yourselves," she said aloud, her voice carrying across the dimensional chamber. "You built this engine not because you were certain the universe needed to be reset, but because you were terrified that you might be wrong about everything." The engine's glow intensified, and Zara felt the weight of cosmic forces pressing against her consciousness. The power to unmake reality was literally at her fingertips. But she also felt something else, the presence of every living being in the universe, all of them connected by the same quantum threads that bound matter and energy together. "The universe isn't perfect," she said, her hand hovering over the engine's activation controls. "It's full of pain and loss and terrible mistakes. But it's also full of love and hope and the courage to keep trying." The architects forgot that. Imperfection isn't a flaw, it's what makes existence worth preserving. Instead of activating the reset engine, Zara reached out and touched its core directly. The device responded not with the cosmic annihilation she expected, but with something far more profound, a transformation that rippled outward through the quantum foam of space-time itself. The engine didn't reset the universe. Instead, it began to heal it, using the same power that could have erased existence to repair the damage that eons of conflict had caused. The dark spots in the galactic web began to shine again as dead worlds were reborn, as extinct species were given new chances at life, as the wounds of war were slowly, carefully mended. "You chose growth over perfection," Thane said, his form solidifying as the engine's healing energy flowed through him. "Evolution over stagnation. The architects would be ... proud." Nox stared at the transformed universe display, her enhanced vision showing her the cascade of positive change spreading across the galaxy. "You could have given humanity ultimate power," she said, her voice filled with wonder rather than anger. "Instead, you gave us ultimate responsibility." "Power without wisdom is destruction," Zara replied, feeling the engine's energy flowing through her, connecting her consciousness to the vast network of life that filled the cosmos. "But wisdom without compassion is just another form of death." As the healing waves spread across the galaxy, the quarantine around Earth began to dissolve. For the first time in millions of years, humanity was free to take its place among the stars, not as conquerors or destroyers, but as gardeners of a universe that had chosen hope over fear, growth over perfection, and the beautiful uncertainty of existence over the sterile certainty of oblivion. The galaxy's oldest civilization had avoided Earth, not because they feared humanity's potential for destruction, but because they had always known that when the final choice came, humans would choose life over death, love over fear, and the messy, imperfect, miraculous reality of existence over the cold perfection of the void. In the end, that choice had saved not just humanity, but the universe itself. Asterisk.